I'm going to talk about how to use motivation or increase motivation or start to rise motivation in intimate partner violence perpetrators programs to decrease the risk of of recidivism. That is the thing that most of us are intend to do with perpetrators programs. No? I'm going to focus my speech on one risk factor that is very present in our programs, and as you will know, of course, is substance abuse. Because I have conducted several randomized control trials. One, I will talk about that for this motivational tool, but I have only proved the efficacy of this motivational tool adapted to substance use in perpetrators programs. But in the next months, I think that we could we will present this tool with other risks that we also found in our programs, such as trauma, such as poor social network, such as problems with emotion, expression of emotions, anger, etc. Because we are conducting now research with financed by or granted by Work with Perpetrators European network, and we will present, and we are now designing and proving these new tools, and we will talk about that. I think that in November or December, that will be a webinar on these other risk factors that are also present in our participants, in the participants of our programs. Okay. You have to know that as Anna has said, we work with and we start with our program at 2006, many years ago. But I think that the characteristic of the main characteristic of the Programa Contexto is that it's a three branches program. Of course, we conduct intervention with perpetrators. We have treated more than 1,400 participants in our program, but we also are very committed with training future professionals. We have trained more than 400 students and professionals in our premises, and we are very focused also in research, because I am from the university, of course, and we started this adventure of working with IPV perpetrators, thinking or underlining the idea that the research is very important, and we have to prove that all that we are doing is evidence-based. And with this idea, we are conducting from 2006 different lines of research in this area, in this field. I don't know how to... Well, the background, I have told something about the program and our commitment with research, training, and intervention, of course. And the first thing that we noticed when we started at 2006 was that the participants that come to our program were very resistant. Of course, they come from the judicial system, because they have to come to our program by mandatory from the courts. And of course, they think that they don't need the intervention, the law is wrong, the victim is who must be treated, but they don't need nothing. They are beautiful and marvelous parents, men, partners, and they don't need didn't need any treatment or something like that. We now are also working with voluntary men, but in our initial part of our program, all of them were court mandated. And also in this first moment, there were not this awareness about the intimate partner violence problem, that they is a now we are very aware that this is a crime, and the law is prosecuting this kind of crimes. But in that times, it will be a little bit confusing for them. Of course, if you think that you have not committed a crime because you have only do like anyone else will do in the same situation, of course, you don't need any treatment or any program or any intervention. And also, if this intervention is mandated by the court, it's worse. Well, we recognize this problem, and the first thing that we recognize that we have to do is to try to motivate, to try to increase the awareness of that they need to change their behavior. And this was our starting point. With design, we read a lot. We make a review of the literature on that kind, on how to deal with these kind of things, and we find that in the substance use arena and in the and it was starting in the IPB field also, the use of motivational tools to work with perpetrators. And we design a motivational tool, but we are very worried about, or we don't want it to only work at the start of the program with motivational interview and so on, but in the rest of the intervention, 1 year intervention, we think that we need to do something all the program, throughout all the program. Then we designed this tool that I am going to present today, and this is a tool that is all the program working with the participants. The main aim is not reduce the recidivism or change some risk factors that we know that are present with these participants. The main aim is to increase the adherence to treatment, to make possible that the change is produced with the other parts of the program, of course. Well, I think that all you know this kind of theoretical ideas. Of course, we include in this tool the trans-theoretical model of change ideas, the motivational interviewing used by professionals in substance use problems, the good lives model. We thought that it would be a very interesting approach to how to deal with or how to achieve our goals in the life without hurting, without producing violence towards others. No? And of course, some strategies from the solution-focused brief therapy. We mix all of these things, And we design a tool with 4 main components. The first principal component is the motivational interview, of course. And in this motivational interview, we not only want to have all the information from the participant, to know him, to know what are the main risk factors that are present in their life, but also we want to increase their awareness of their need to change their behavior. And we try to motivate them to motivate the adherence or the implication of in the intervention process of these participants. We also use because the program that we conduct is group based. We conduct some interviews, individual interviews, but the main part of the program is 32 to 35 group sessions with 10 to 12 participants, more or less. And we think that these group sessions are really important, and they learn a lot in these group sessions from one each other, from the other, from their mates, not only from the facilitators, also from their mates. And we design some group sessions where the participants have to share their goals, their personal goals, explain their difficulties to achieve that goals, provide feedback about how, for me, I think that you can do that, or for me has worked that kind of strategy, or so on. But for us, it's very, very important, this part of the group sessions sharing their goals. Goal reinforcement is another strategy that we use throughout all the intervention. I think that this is a very high effort for the facilitators. We know that working with perpetrators is really hard, is very demanding population, and in many occasions the programs don't have resources enough to work with these kind of tools. But we try to do our best, and then we say this is the best way, or we think that this is the best way, and then professionals have to adapt some things of this. Not maybe they can do everything, because with this goal reinforcement, we ask to our facilitators that they have to be aware of each goal established for each participant, and then, if not all the sessions, many of the sessions, ask for their goals, how they are going, or, for example, if the content of what one session is anger management, and 2 of our participants have as the main goal to work their anger management, they have to say, oh, of course, Pepe and Manolo, today we are going to work especially with your problem, and we are going to work with that is part of your training to achieve your goal and to that you have set, of course. And retention techniques, of course, is also very typical in the motivational strategies. Telephone call when participant has not come to the group session, speaking or making reinforcement of their advancements in the group. If someone usually don't talk or don't want to talk in the sessions, and this day has a very nice participation, we have to reinforce and so on. No, are very all of these, except motivational interview, that is a very hard tool to and needs more training. The other things are very easy to do. It is only a question of time and implication of the facilitators. Well, in this tool, the IMP, or Individualized Motivational Plan, is how we call this tool, has two phases, one at the start, and the phase two is all the program, how work with this motivational tool in all the program. In the first phase is we approach to this tool and with an individual strategy. Is not with the group and so on, only with individual interviews. And we do 3 interviews with them. The first motivational interview is, all of these interviews are more or less of 1 hour, 1 hour and a half, more or less, in time, time lasting. The first motivational interview is the reception, and we insist to the facilitators that don't confrontate them. They come here very angry today. They don't want to stay here. The first session is to listen the participant, collecting information about their risk factors, and knowing more, going through their situation, their individual and specific situation. Why are you here? What happens? And we have we work with the SARA. I think that you will know the spousal abuse, assault. No, sorry. It's a checklist with the risk factors for intimate partner violence. And we also ask about these risk factors to know if they are present in the participant's life or not. But it's mostly we are knowing it's we are knowing the participant, and it's the first contact with him. I have to say that we always work with 2 facilitators, always. And in the group, we work with 2 facilitators and 2 people in that are training with us. Always there are 4 people in conducting the session, and it's easy for us to work all of these kind of questions through all the program, because the facilitators are supported by a team. I realized that where you are the unique facilitator is more difficult to work with all of these things. In the second interview, we focus on motivation for change, because, as I have said, they don't think at the first stages, they don't think that they need to change anything in their lives. And in the third motivational intervention, is when we make and design with them the intervention plan, the individualized intervention plan. And we have to set the self-determined goals in this session. I have to say that not always we set the goal or are capable to set the goal with the participant. With this kind of participants, these participants are very hard to work. In many cases, are very difficult to work with, and the miracles didn't exist, don't exist. You have to expect, and you have to be realistic, and to know that not always we are going to be success with all the participants. Not always we will achieve all that we think that we need to do with this participant. And of course, it doesn't matter. You have to try to change and help the participant until the last day that he is there. That although the participant will be confrontational, resistant, etc., you have to try that. Yeah. Well, this is the information that we or the structure of these motivational interviews. And the first, we welcome the participant, explain, because they are many of them are very angry, are angry and have fear about what are going to happen with them in this new context that they don't know, because they come to the university. Many of them have never in the university, and they don't know what they are going to find there. We have in the first sessions, we work with them in group, making the first evaluation, the intake, and we reduce there in these group sessions to evaluate assessment sessions. We reduce this fear of the unknown, about the unknown things, no? But in the individual interviews, we try to make them more comfortable with the situation, because we want to work with them about the problem, not with their fears or their anger, only because I am here, no? Or the law is there. Okay. Then we welcome the participant, explain the characteristics of the intervention, and try to facilitate their adaptation. We, in this first session, have the attitude of listening and providing them with the space to express their problems, express their difficulties, their fears, etc. And we want to obtain information about the participant's personal situation and risks, etc. In the second, I think that this interview is very important, and the attitude of the coordinators is very important, because establish the first rapport with the participant, and usually they come down, they start to think, of course, this is not so bad, I can talk here, I can express myself, and of course, they are not police, they are not judges, and they are usually young women that are asking me and are listen to me, and of course, this is not so bad that I imagine, no? In the second motivational interview, we try to promote awareness of the problem. Yes, of course, they say that they are here because they don't know why, or because the victim is a very bad woman and all the laws, blah, blah, blah. But we have to, with many questions, and we try to promote the idea that, well, okay, we are not going to talk about the victim because she is not here for defend herself, and you say that you have not a problem, but you have a problem. You have a problem, a objective problem. You have to be here, and you have to be here for a year long. You have to be with us 1 year long if you don't want to go to prison. Then, because if they don't comply with the program, they have to go to prison. And of course, it's a very motivating thing. No, but we explain to them that they have a problem, and they have to. And we explore the idea, what is the problem that or the situation that have provoked that you are here. What are the how do you explain the situation? How do you explain? Do you think that you need to change anything about your behavior? What you can do different, or what could you done different for that the for not stay here now? And we work with all these kind of ideas to raise the sense of need to change something. Not much at the first time, not much, but something needs to be changed in your life, in your behavior. And we try to establish minimum ideas, minimum indicators of need that need to be changed in your life. We send to them some homeworks to how the program can help you, or do you think, because we have explained how works the program, we have explained the contents of the program, and we ask them to think about how the program can help them. And what things do you think that, yes, we know that you don't think change anything, but just in case, what thing that you can improve a little bit in your life to reduce the situations that have produced that you have been convicted of intimate violence. The third session, the third individual motivational interview, is the most hard session, because you have to establish these self-determined goals with the participant. When we designed this tool, we thought that well, the participant has to establish 2, 3, 4 goals to work with all the risk factors present in their lives, and well, forget that. If the participant establishes 1, 2 is incredible, but if we achieve 1 self-determined goal, is enough. Because if he achieved this goal fast, we can work on other goals during the program. But in the first time, in these first sessions, we need that they set one goal. Yeah, this is important. You will have this tool to work with if you want to use it. This is how we work. They need very visual structure, because we think that is easy to establish goals, but it is not easy at all to establish goals and more for this kind of participants. And we have to work in step by step to establish this kind of goals. We will come back to this tool that we use. And as I have said, we work during all the program with these tools and with
Marisa?
Sí.
Just letting you know, 30 minutes left.
No.
30 minutes.
30 minutes. talking or for questions too? Is
for you. 30
for
minutes for
me,
you.
30 minutes.
Yes.
You know that there are many, many more slides.
I know, but I think it's so interesting you sharing all of the way you do it in practice. So please just
Yeah,
continue as you are, and we have the very
yeah,
detailed slides that we can
yeah,
share with people
yeah,
if we don't
perfect.
manage to get through everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
perfect, perfect. I will try to go through. Yeah, then this is the on the all the program. We have in different parts of the program. We have two in because I have said that we have three motivational interviewing at the beginning, but we have two individual motivational interviewing at the middle of the program and at the end of the program to supervise the goals, how they are working on their personal goals, how if they are going well, if they have done progress, anything, and we work with them at the middle of the intervention, and at the end to see how they have the progress with their goal and so on, individually with them. Yeah, we have also this nice, because they are nice sessions, group sessions, sharing their goals with the group. And here, important thing, I have said that in many occasions, I think that 30% of the occasions we can't set a goal with the participant at the third motivational interview, individual motivational interview. Of course, don't worry. We, in the second or third session, make this group session setting their goals. And because, of course, they have goals, but they are not so special. The goals that they establish are very, very, very repetitive and always are about the same things. We will see something about that, but always is very probably you have in the group 2-3 people sharing similar goals always. Yeah, and in this session, in the group session, we provide to those that have set a goal, we provide their goal, and they explain to their. Usually, we use 1 or 2 sessions sharing their goals, and they share their goals with their mates and so on. But we provide with some material for those that have set the goals. But we have also material for those that have not set their goal, because when they are listening their peers, they realize that, of course, I am perfect, but maybe I can do something in this direction. And we invite them to listen your peers. If you think that some of these goals that they have set are in any way are perfect to you or are fit with your situation, we can establish a individual interview and set the goal with you that you have listened to your peers. And if we had 30% that they don't establish a goal, it's very strange that after this session, maybe 5%, 10% at least will be without a self-determined goal, because they listen their peers and then they say, oh, of course, I think that I can do with that goal, and it's a very motivating session for them. At the middle of the program, we have another group session sharing their goal advancement. Is very nice, the feedback that the participants give, and we promote that, because in the individual session, individual monitoring or supervising session, we provide feedback. The facilitators provide feedback, but in this session are the peers, the group who provide feedback, and they are participants that trust very much in their partners, in their peers, because they think that they are living the same situation, they have more knowledge about their situation than facilitators have, no? And in the last module, we also work with this group session, sharing their achievement. Is really nice session, this, because many of them, of course, I have achieved a little bit. I think that I improved something about that. But are there their mates that provide examples that no, you have improved a lot. I remember you when you start and you were so aggressive, so you talk so loud, so angry all the time, and you now are so happy person, funny person in the group. And are they who are talking and who are reflecting the change that they have do. Of course, during all the program, the facilitators have to work very much with the reinforce and retention techniques, being very motivating and explaining very well how fit each content of the program with their personal goals. This is really important, that they always think, oh, of course, we are going to talk today about that one. This is not this important for me. You have to do the work as facilitators to make clear that this content is important to you. For example, it's very usual that when you are talking in the sessions, talking about children and their son and daughter and their relationship with their children, always there are someone that says, I have no children, this session, I can go home because this is not important for me. You have to make the effort of saying, no. You are the son of someone also, and you can be father. This is important for you also, and you can help to your partners, to the other group members, to give them the perspective of their children and you have to work on the arguments, the ideas that can make important for them this session, this content, this specific content. Yeah. Well, only and very quickly, we have conducted several, as I have said, several randomized control trials. All you know that randomized control trials are the gold standard in proving the effectiveness of the intervention, the social intervention in general. And with the pandemic, we all the world was aware how important are the randomized control trials to prove the vacuum, and also for the social interventions are important. This kind of assessment of effectiveness. No? We have proved that the individualized motivational plan in different randomized control trials improve the session the adherence at the program, because participants in the condition, you know that in the randomized control trials you compare in this case we compare participants with the program, only with the program, without IMP, and participants with the program, the same program, but with the individualized motivational plan also. And we found that participants in the experimental condition with IMP attended more program sessions, finished the intervention in a more advanced stage of change, and present higher reduction in recidivism risk and self-reported physical violence. And this was very important for us, no? This kind of results regarding the intervention process and the intervention goals. Also, we found that in another randomized control trial that this kind of tool improve the therapeutic alliance and the therapeutic behavior in the during the group process. And also, the participants in the IMP condition had present higher empathy. This was very strange because we don't try to do nothing about that, but they proved to this tool proved to be interesting also to improve the empathy in the participants. We have published all these results, and I will share with you all the papers that are in this presentation. Also, we are trying to know what parts of the IMP are working, because it's a tool with a combination of subtools, and we want to know what parts of the IMP are really important. And now we are starting with the goal setting as a tool in the motivational interventions. And we have analyzed what kind of in a qualitative study, what kind of goals they establish, and we have seen that more or less always are the same: interpersonal abilities, communicational skills. They need communicational skills, improve their relationships, improve their relationship with their family, with their children, and many of them want also to have better self-control, to be to express their emotions without using violence, and so on. No? And we have found that goal setting, those who set a self-determined goal, is less likely that drop out of the intervention. And this is very important thing, that if you if you have a participant that have set that had set a goal, is less probable that less likely that he left the intervention. Yeah, and including those with substance use problems that are more resistant and have many more problems associated, not only substance abuse, more problems associated. The fact that they have set a goal is the very strong predictor of not drop out the intervention. And this is very important. And we have proved with many other, we have make an analysis, including many variables in this analysis, to see what were the best predictors of dropout, and the goal setting and substance abuse were the more important predictors of dropout, in this case in the negative sense. If you set a goal, it's less probable that you drop out. Sorry for my English. I don't know if I have many time to
So maybe you could go into this and then explain why this is relevant and how you integrated it. And I would think it would be really interesting to see the practical example of the individualized motivational plan. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Well, we have now with the grant of the WWP EN network, European network, we are designing. We have designed yet, but we are proving now how to adapt the IMP to participants with a specific risk factor. Yeah. In this case, we have conducted a randomized control trial, but this was before of this work that we are conducting now. We realized that because it's very known in the scientific literature that the main risk factor to drop out is substance abuse. And as we know, 50% more or less in the intervention programs have substance abuse. Then it's a very huge proportion of our participants with these risk factors. I don't know if in your countries you work with another strategies, but I know that in England, for example, they are more advanced in this arena in Anglo-Saxon countries. But in Europe, I don't know how you work with this, but in Spain, for example, the interventions working with perpetrators are not adjusted to substance abuse problems. And there are no protocols or rules how to proceed with this. The court mandate to participate in the intimate partner violence without care about if the participants have substance use problems, or we assess this problem, and in some occasions we say we can't work with this participant because are very serious the problems that they have with the substance use, and he needs to go first to a treatment, to substance use treatment, and then comes to the IPB intervention. But in Spain, there are no clear protocols about how to work with this kind of participants. We have seen that this kind of participants not only is more likely that they drop out, not only have the substance use problem that is a very huge problem, but they have also many other problems related with this substance use problem that we have to are aware and work with, because if not, we are doing nothing with them. No? For example, we conduct a research and we see that these participants have clearly more clinical symptomatology in general symptomatology, anger trait, anxiety, depressive disorder, stressful life events, more impulsivity, more presence of antisocial disorder or borderline or aggressive disorder. It's a very nice presence of all the problems that you can imagine are there. No? But they have two positive things. They are more motivated when we analyze with 1,000 participants in programs in our program. They are more motivated to change because they are aware that they have a problem. Of course, maybe not with IPB, or yes, but this problem with IPB is for my problem with alcohol. Of course, this is not a justification, but they use as justification of their IPB problem. No?
10 minutes left, Marisa.
Yeah, and they need to. They are more motivated to change, and they have. They are in more advanced stage of change when they arrive to the program. Yeah, and this is a very good idea to work with. And we have also analyze what happens when they finish the intervention in a programs without working specifically with the substance abuse problem, and if they don't drop out, is the thing that is because we need the individualized motivational plans. If they don't drop out, they can achieve the same kind of change that the other participants. And it's very important that they stay in the intervention, that we can increase the adherence of this kind of participants with specific risk factors. Well, I am not going to ask because I have only 10 minutes, but if you want, we can, in the Q&A part, we can also talk about how in your country deal with this problem, with substance abuse problem, if you work with that, or you have some criteria to don't include this kind of participants, and how do you work, if you work with, how do you work with this problem in simultaneously, in parallel, or first with it and then with that? How you work with that? If you want, in the Q&A part of the session. Well, how we adapt this, and I think that I will finish with this idea, how we adapt the individualized motivational plan to the substance use problem, because we were aware that we can't do a specific substance abuse problem program at the same time. We have no resources to do that, and we have to manage the situation in other way. And we adapt the individualized motivational plan to these persons with this specific problem. And the idea was, well, we measure each participant, and we see, because we've initiated with a very long assessment process, and we know what participants have substance use problems. And with these participants, we try to establish, of course, they can establish another kind of goals, but we try to establish with them a goal related to substance use. Alcohol reduction, not eliminate at all, but reduce the consumption, be aware of the consumption is important in the violence. And we establish, the first thing is to try to establish with them a goal related to substance abuse, because we have realized that many participants, without focusing in this idea, many participants that have several or a huge or important problem with substance abuse don't try to do, or they don't select this problem to work with when we try to state or set the goals. And we focus them to this kind of goal. And also we have trained facilitators a little bit, 15 hours is not so much, in substance abuse problems and issues related with substance abuse. We also, in the session where they have to share the goals with the group, we establish a important part of this time working with the goals related to substance use in the 3 group sessions. We also, and this is a very important thing, for not only for substance use, for another problems that we want to work with, we have adapted the intervention sessions with a specific content related to substance use. For example, if we are going to work with anger management in a session, we will work, for example, with role-playing, one or two of the situations will have the presence of substance use problem to work with this kind of ideas, no? And maybe the participants with this problem will be those who participate in the role play. This kind of adaptation of the world that we are, or for example, we are working with distorted thoughts. We work also the distorted thoughts related to substance use. Yeah, of course. We adapt the content and always try to give inputs on substance use. And if there are if the problem is really high, if there are a really profound problem on substance use and the person, it is impossible to work with him in the group sessions, then we have worked to have the link with the referral specialized services to referral the participants to these specialized services, and we have prepared the protocols to do these referrals and so on, and to be connected with this kind of services. And we can do this, we have do this other randomized control trial, and the random it seems that the randomized control trials are something very easy to do, but they last 4 years, 5 years to do this kind of research. And we have found that this kind of individualized motivational plans adapted improve the intervention clearly. Of course, I wish that the difference between the experimental and control group were huge, but it is impossible because the control group were groups where they work the same program and the individualized motivational plan. And the experimental group were those who work with the same program, the individualized motivational plan, adapted to this kind of problem, the substance use consumption. Then the difference between the two programs or the two conditions were very, very little. And then the results are not so huge. The difference between the two conditions are not so huge. But we have found an important and a greater reduction in the experimental condition for alcohol consumption. And this is the most important thing that we have found in this randomized control trial. And we have found that all the group is more participate more, are more implicated in the work that we are doing in this condition where the risk factors are focused and we work with these specific problems that the participants have. And if you see control group, we assess participation with the percentage of homework completed. And in the control group, the 34% of the homework was completed, but in the experimental group, the 50% of the homework was completed. Then we have a significant difference. It's not only visual, also is statistically significant, the difference. Yeah.
Let's start with the question that Barbara was asking, and this is whether you could share a bit more about the goal reinforcement and retention techniques, to be a bit more specific. So you mentioned a retention technique that you follow up with a phone call, for example, when somebody doesn't come to a session, but do you have any other examples that what you do for goal reinforcement and retention techniques, Marisa?
Well, yes, I have seen this.
Oh, apologize. I'm going to interrupt one. So before people leave, because you saw this amazing presentation. We're getting close to the end. I have a link for the evaluation of the event. Please don't leave without leaving your feedback to the webinar just before we get into the answer. Sorry, Melissa. Thank you.
Okay, I don't know. It's Barbara. Barbara. I don't know. The goal reinforcement and retention technique. I think that I have said something, but I will try to be more specific. It's difficult, but you have to have all the goals that the participants have established, and you have to try to see each session how can help the participant to achieve their goal, his goal. Yeah. For example, if you have a participant that his goal is to be well with or have again a good relationship with my children. Yeah. And the session, one easy goal reinforcement. If the session goes about the relationship with our children and how the impact of intimate partner violence on our children and so on, before you initiate the session, you can say, Fernando, you have to be very, very atento, very, you have to
pay attention.
You have to pay attention to this session specifically because it's very important to you and so on. Also, you can, this regarding the content of the sessions. Also, you have to do a work having present all the self-determined goals. For example, you can establish that each day you will be aware of 3 or 4 participants, the other facilitators of another 3 or 4 participants, or you can split the group and you say, I will be aware of the self-determined goals of these 6 and you of these 6. And then you say, of course, Manolo has to improve the relationship with his mother, for example, is his goal. And I know that the first step that he has established is to contact with his sister to try to approach little by little to establish again a good relationship with his family, with his family. And you know that this past week, the participant have to or has to talk with his sister. And before you enter the session, you talk with this participant and says, Manolo, I know that you had to talk with your sister yesterday. How it's going? How has be the conversation? All the things are okay. This kind of manifestation of proximity and interest in their worries, in their process, is very important for them. And then with this kind of little things, realize that they are important for us and their change is important for us also. And you try to improve with them and help them in achieving these goals. I don't know if I have answered on if you want that.
No, I feel like it's really addressing them individually and depending on their specific situation and goals, seeing how you can motivate them and talk to them about those.
Yeah, it's important that these kind of tools need effort for the from the facilitators, and they have to train this kind of tools. And I think that the more difficult tool is the motivational interviewing, because it's a matter of not learn or of remember the question. No. It's a kind of attitude, giving a space to the participant, listen them, and this is difficult for many of us to do, no? But the other things I think that is only remember that I have to try to give them the opportunity, give them the idea that I am worried about their goals, their progress, etc.
So, Marisa, we have two more questions in the chat, one from Michael and one from Olga. Michael's asking, and this is actually interesting to me as well, how do you, or do the goals need to be specific to the man stopping his use of violence and abuse? Because you mentioned the substance abuse issues, and then the goals were very specific to that, for example. So how do you keep them focused on that? Because as Michael mentions, they will try to get out of it.
Yeah. Always they try to go out. The IPB question, always. But we don't let them to establish goals that are not related to violence in some way. We can start with goals that are not so clear related. For example, I want to improve the relationship with my children. They can think that this is not related with IPB, but we know that this is a very important thing in our work with IPB, how they impact on children, and how we have to change many of the ways that they are related with their children, how they use to harm their partner, and so on. And we can start with those goals that they want, but always we have to be clear that this goal has to be related with IPB, always. And for that, they in many occasions don't establish a self-determined goal, because they are not prepared to not assume, to recognize a little bit that, okay, I have do something wrong, no? And in the first sessions, it's difficult to achieve this kind of self-determined goals for this kind of question. But I think that in the third group session, they are more prepared to do something about that. And of course, they can establish goals like, I want to buy a car, and I want to have how achieve this goal. But of course, we don't let them to do these kind of things. Yeah. Mm-hmm. More questions?
Yes, there was one question which is about including victims' voices in the findings. So so the first question is if any of the participants are still or were still in touch with their partners or ex-partners while they're in the program. And the second question was in the findings that you shared, were victims' voices included, or was it about self-reported changes?
Of course, this is the very big elephant in Spanish room. We can't, in Spain, we can't contact the victim. Then we have no information from the victim point of view, and this is a huge problem for us. And only in the occasions where we have a voluntary participant, and if the victim has contact us, because we can't contact the victims with the Spanish data protection law. But if the victim has contact us, then we can have some information regarding the functioning when they are voluntary. If they are mandated, we can't have this part of the story. And for us, it's a really hard situation because we know that they don't lie. They explain the situation in the best way, for them. And okay, this is a problem with the programs and the evaluation of the effectiveness of the programs in Spain. Yeah, it's a huge problem. But we think that without this, we can also work, and of course, is self-reported. The change is self-reported, and so on. Yeah, but we have a very huge problem with that. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, that is a big problem, but also Spain. Spain's not alone with the data protection issues. So that's something that
we
need
will try to
look
change
at.
that. We are and we want to have conversations with the new government when the government established, and with the politicians and administration. But it's always difficult to convince them. Yeah.
But thank you for doing the work anyway.
Yeah.
So currently we don't have any more questions in the chat, but please also feel free to use the raise your hand tool, and you can unmute yourself and ask a question directly. We have 6 more minutes together. And I also shared again the evaluation form link. So please, if you need to leave earlier, open that beforehand so you can take a moment and fill out that evaluation for us. So I have several questions. So my first question, you mention and you show very nicely how the group is really, really important for this process, and how it helps motivate and increase the effects of the work that you do. If somebody is working in an individual context, can they also use this tool?
Yeah, I think that is without this part of group sessions, but I think that is easier to work with this kind of tools in individual contexts, because you know perfectly the participant. You work always with the same, and you can work with more goals because you have more time with the participant. And I think that is perfectly it could be adapted to individual. Yeah, perfectly. And I think that is easier for the individual work than for the group work, because with the group you have to be aware of all the self-determined goals of all the group and reinforce 12 people, not only one person. And with the individual process, you always have the same person. Okay. But the work, but the group is really important. I think I have that it has a very important impact in the process of change. The group. If I have to choose, I prefer work with group in group. Yeah.
Well, you have to do more motivation work on your own. With the group, you have other examples, and they also see that it's true what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So, and I also wanted to ask for everybody who's with me here, if they want to use this tool, what would that process look like?
I don't
so
understand.
if somebody here would want to start using this tool, how would they do that?
Okay, it's difficult, but I know that many people has used this tool without a hard training, and with this kind of tool, you can more or less make the tools. I think that it would be nice to have a training face to face, and with for example, with your own team, work team. If you have in your program, you have a team, you can try to practice with role playings, how to interview, how to make a goal, and one is rolling, playing the role of perpetrator, and the other one the facilitator. But I think that you have to train, or you have to practice a little bit before you start using these kind of motivational tools. Yeah.
And in the conversation that we had before the webinar, you said it's really important to do a training on motivational interviewing. So that specific aspect of it,
Yeah.
not necessarily the tool specifically,
Yeah.
but the skills of motivational interviewing.
Yeah, motivational interviewing is essential. Yeah.
And during sign up, we had a question about sexualized violence as an additional risk factor. And whether you take that into account in your work,
Yeah.
and if yes, how?
Yeah, I have to say that in Spain, the men that are mandated to these kind of programs are not processed by or not convicted by sexual aggression. Sexual aggression is a completely different crime in our law, not obviously the perpetrators commit also sexual violence against their partners, but we have this distinction, and there are programs specifically to address sexual aggression. It is obviously a very risk factor, a very high risk factor, but usually we don't have in our program those have used this kind of violence in a extremely way. Yeah. And we only, because we are mandated to do that, we only work with intimate partner violence, physical, psychological. We explain to the participants, and we work. There are several sessions where we work with sexual problems, how men address sexuality. When we define intimate partner violence, we include obviously sexual violence in intimate partner relationships, and we work with this kind of violence along the program in different contents. But we don't work as a specific problem, or we have not a specific program working only on this kind of violence. Yeah.